Tib, are you with us here today? Wonderful. Okay. In the spirit of continuing our experiment, we will follow the sort of popcorn format that we did previously. As a reminder, the goal is to read each other's updates so that we can identify things that might be unclear, just spur some questions along the way. Again, this is an experiment. If folks have further feedback on it, we would definitely welcome that. We want to make sure that this is a valuable use of folks' time, and rather than just reading updates, we want to make sure that people are getting the information they need from them. So the reason I asked if Tib was here is I'm going to throw Tib right in the deep end. Tib, would you kick us off with backend?
Now you can still send these endpoints to the main process, but it is now supported to move them off the main process if you want to scale more horizontally. That's correct. Next week means this week. Those notes are from last week. Should be out tomorrow.
Thank you kindly. On spec here, let's see. Benoit, could I ask you to do spec for us this week? We're doing the...
Yes, sure. Let me see. So about specs, the team is working on a few new MSC. It seems to be related to invalid authentication, and yeah, there are several new MSC about authentication. What else? There is no MSC in the final comment period, and 3 MSCs has been accepted. One about preventing a CL event from being redacted, if I understand correctly. Also, an MSC about writing mathematical messages using a specific markup language, and another one related to term of service during registration. I don't know if these links are going to be published somewhere, but maybe there is a way to find the accepted MSC somewhere. And an MSC has been closed, that I understand means that it's been rejected. I'm not sure about the knock feature, and it seems to be related to migrating a knock room to a join room.
Yeah, this is about transitioning from you being in the knock membership state to a join. And if that sounds weird because you think that is what would happen, typically you go knock invite join. But yes, you can click the link.
Okay, so there is an intermediate state that is invited.
Yeah, that's how you accept knocks.
Was that MSC closed because the invite, the membership rules technically allow that transition already, but nothing just used it?
I believe that was closed because, yeah, it is already permitted.
All right.
So there was nothing to do here.
Whilst we're talking spec, it is worth noting on the auth stuff, this 4126 and 4127 is literally killing off the access token query string parameter, which is pretty vicious. For instance, any web-based matrix client will need to, when it gets around to authenticating to access images, once the auth media stuff happens, will not be able to cheat and just put a access token equals on the URL. Instead, it will have to mess around going and setting an authentication header. So if you care deeply about access tokens, then this is definitely one to be aware of. I think it's the right thing to do, by the way. But if you went 10 years ago and told me that we're about to remove the main way of authentication thing across all matrix clients, I would have been terrified.
Okay, thanks, folks. Moving on, let's go to Element Web and Desktop. And Noah, would you mind jumping in on this one?
Not at all. So it's all about the Thread Activity Center this week. If you're not aware, this is a part of Element Web that shows you activity in threads and rooms that you're in. I haven't played with it myself personally, but a Mark All Red button has been added, which is very useful if you're trying to control your threads notifications. In the notification settings, you can toggle whether you want all thread unread activity or just notifications, and whether that shows up in your Thread Activity Center. I'm not entirely sure what that means. Someone wants to break it down.
Yeah, so notifications would be more just like, when people are pinging you directly, for example, for mention notifications, or say you have your a room set to receive all notifications for a particular room, it'll send you those. For if you can also toggle it off so that you get so that'll be, if it's only notifications, you can also toggle it so that you have all activity. So for messages in threads that you don't get a notification for, but somebody has sent a message in the thread and there is an unread there, it'll give you kind of the black or white dot depending on your theme.
Where do you toggle that, David?
Sorry?
Where is the button?
If you go to, it's in notification settings. So if you go to notification settings and then scroll down, it is called
Only show notifications in the Thread Activity Center. Off. Perfect. Thank you. All right, so I actually have my threads back for the first time in a month. Yay!
That's quite exciting. Okay. And this Thread Activity Center will be delabsed on Develop, so available to you if you're using Element Web Develop tomorrow. And then hopefully in the RC on the 30th, so it'll start rolling out to app. Is that how it typically works on April 30th? Is that what that means?
Yeah, it'll be included within a release candidate on the 30th to go out and then release the following week. Exciting.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Element Android. Doug, can I ask you to jump in on this?
Yep, sure. Version 0.4.8 is now available on the Play Store for testers. The room moderation feature has been enabled, so moderators and administrators now have various actions available in the rooms they're in, and that release is expected to go to production on Monday. Then the team is working on two features currently: permalink navigation and login using QR code. And they are iterating on the room list invites. So they're going to be moved from a separate screen to go inside your actual room list, sort of amongst them chronologically, with a filter being added at the top so you can just see your invites. That's Android.
Thank you very much. Moving on to REST SDK.
I think
Matthew,
skipped,
you mind jumping in?
you skipped Element X iOS.
Oh, I am so sorry. Yeah, totally skipping right over one. Matthew, I will get to you for REST SDK. I was gonna ask if Dave could jump in on Element X iOS.
Certainly can. So for Element X iOS, 1.62 is now on the App Store. 1.63 is waiting for review with an SDK fix for missing timeline chunks. Room moderation is finished and enabled. We've got initial feedback from moving invites directly into the room list, and that's been positive, so that's going to be enabled. Making good progress with login via QR code, which is good news. Also good progress on supporting permalinks and in-app navigation. And this week is continuing to focus on login with QR and permalinks.
About the permalinks things, I saw a pull request that was open against the Matrix.2 website. Do we know if somebody is in charge of reviewing that, or is it left for anyone who would be willing to do that?
This probably should be on the radar of the Element Web team, although I suspect that David might disagree. But perhaps we can fix the tie break by asking if Element Web can please own Matrix.2.
Sorry, I missed the start of this.
Matrix.2 PRs. We don't have Bruno, who was the de facto maintainer for it anymore. Therefore, we need somebody to actually review these PRs. I'm suggesting that it should get bundled in with the Element Web team as a tiny but very important thing that often gets forgotten.
Sure, we can at least review it and figure out if it's us or someone else anyway. Sure.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Matthew, you want to take us away with REST SDK?
Sure, although predictably enough, REST SDK is the layer below Element X, Android, and iOS. Therefore, there has also been permalink support happening there with this new API to go and both paginate forwards and backwards from a given event. And I also saw some nice helpers for actually manipulating Matrix.2 URIs and Matrix URIs potentially as well. QR code login, also lots of work happening, and it's all coming together. And there was a nasty bug that Benji tracked down, where duplicate read markers coming from a bug in Sliding Sync was going and DOSing Element X where it was going, and then forgetting its own timeline and dropping messages, which has been fixed. So if anybody was suffering from missing hunks of timeline over the last week or so, that is now resolved. Coming up this week, more permalinkage and more QR code. Any questions of anybody on that?
Actually, yes. As when we planned permalink stuff, there was the idea to put the caching behind that and doing the permalink on top. But then a couple of weeks ago, we figured out that it is really hard to do everything at the same time. Is there any part of caching now prepared, or is that completely left out of scope in all of the three teams?
I thought that the permalink implementation that was happening is built on top of the event cache, but we would need somebody from the Element X or REST SDK team to reveal the truth on that. Anybody know?
I reviewed some of this permalink code, and I think it's built on the event cache, but I wouldn't want to say 100%.
Doug, Benoit, any idea from the app layer?
I would have said I thought it's built on the cache as well, but I couldn't confirm that.
I also thought it was. Therefore, three of us think that it's built on the cache. I think that it is still built on the cache.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the cache will come later because emergency planning. We want to finish this work to the for the end of the month, and The cache will come later.
Okay.
Certainly,
Well,
the full benefits of the event cache are definitely not ready yet.
yeah, but I mean, I guess it's possible it still sits on top of the API, even if the API it sits on top of is not fully fleshed out, and is more of a thin cache, possibly one that doesn't cache anything.
Yeah, and this is definitely something which can happen on the SDK side without involving the application. So,
yep,
that's fine.
And if I can just chip in on one thing on the app layer, this whole thing of invites being embedded in the room list actually feels really, really good. And so congratulations to at least the product design folks for coming up with this one, because it's the first time in a while in which I thought, oh, God, that's a massive improvement over what we used to have.
So on that, we have taken the decision to implement it on Android by just removing the legacy screen, the invite list screen. And once it's done, we will remove the feature flag on iOS.
Very cool. All right, back to you, Josh.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have encryption. Can I ask David Langley, would you mind speaking to this?
Sure. Sorry, I'm after just closing my window, my my notes window. 1 second.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay, here we go. For encryption, yeah?
Exactly.
Yep, cool. Okay, coming up this week, device dehydration version 2 is coming to web. Don't know if anyone wants to add anything additional to that. Looks like there's a PR here open against, or no, it's just a link to the issue. Yeah, full web support for dehydrated devices, version 2. Expected UTDs, hide device-related historical UTDs. Not make sure exactly what that might mean. Just having a look at the issue here.
I can talk to this one if it helps, which is apparently on Element Web and desktop, when you log in on a new device, it will show all of your old history as undecryptable, which is not particularly helpful if you haven't managed to verify the device correctly. So this is simply a mechanism for hiding the old UTDs, which you do not have keys to when you log in on a new device.
Thanks for that. And yeah, I think just continuing on investigating decryption errors and problems.
I could chip in a bit more on the crypto side, in that there's a bit of a mission, I think, underway to look at 3 particular classes of UTDs. There is this one where you hide UTDs before you've logged in. There's also hiding them before you joined a room. So if you get invited to a private room on Element X right now, it will go and blithely show you loads and loads of UTDs. And the other one, big exciting news, is that apparently a bug has been found in the cross-process lock that is meant to stop your encryption corrupting on iOS when you receive a push notification at the same time that the app is running. And so the race is on to fix the cross-device lock too. And with those 3 things solved, I think the hope is that this will solve a large class of the actual UTD stats, which we see flying around the place. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cryptoland.
Yeah, so basically there's a problem specific with iOS with caching or meshing that could create this NSE bug. There is another source where we have evidence that the cross-process lock is not working. And this could be potentially the source of a lot of different problems that we can see with encryption. So yeah, we are still trying to pin down, to reproduce, and yeah, there is a chance that we find something. Yeah, we are going for it and hoping to have a good payoff.
Excellent, thank you. And I'll take a brief moment before the last two here, just to say these moments of I'm not sure what that means, and then folks jumping in and clarifying is exactly what we're trying to get out of this unique format. So thank you for wading through that and for jumping in, everybody. Next up, we have advocacy. Could I ask Andy to jump in on that?
Yeah, hello. Okay, so last week, Tib was away here and there, so not so much done, but did do a Matrix Live with TD from, is it TD from Cloudflare or just using Cloudflare? Right. Heavy use of the phrase for now. And then coming up this week, moving the TwinBot over to the Foundation's infrastructure. I presume it's on Element infrastructure at the moment. Awesome. And then the, I think, newly announced Matrix conference, which is going to be, I think, an annual conference. So call for papers coming soon, sponsor plan ready. Also gathering material for Foundation's first annual report and looking for a volunteer to do Matrix Live. And I think maybe, sounds like there's a volunteer. And also it's coming up to the governing board nominations period as well. Any other questions on advocacy? Otherwise back to Josh.
Thank you very much. Lastly here, for my update, Neil, could I throw you in the deep end with this last one?
Sure. So, elections prep, preparing communications and back-end systems for the nomination period that's going to begin at the end of this week. MatrixCon planning. You've got a contract with event planners and just looking at venues. And bringing new members on board, including GNOME and KDE. This coming week, then, it's all about publishing the election communications, building your preliminary voter rolls, and begin of the nominations periods. What is a preliminary voter roll? What does that mean?
That is a great question. So one of the things that I get really, one of the things about running an election that is super sensitive is making sure that you have a consistent way of building the voter rolls and making sure that they're accurate. You don't have duplication in there, so that you're running a clean election. I say this having been at OSI during which we had a botched election because of accumulated process and technical debt, which was a real pain in the butt. Running an election twice sucks. So building preliminary voter rolls means going through the steps of how do we build this list in a way that is repeatable and consistent. And so I have to build the list to begin with because those who are eligible to vote are also eligible to nominate. So by building the list, I establish the process and also know who I need to reach out to for nominations.
Okay, thank you. Other points, last round of membership review and approvals before the nomination period, and you've got a board meeting and annual report prep to do, including financial and programmatic overview. What will be the sort of artifacts for those not involved directly in the board meeting? What can the community expect from that?
Yeah, good question. I don't know that we have much in the way of public artifacts that come out of the board meetings, but some of the actions certainly will be made public. So, for instance, as we're operationalizing the foundation and we're bringing on new members, it's time to put in place our own ethics policy. And so that ethics policy would certainly be something that I would expect to be like a shared product. So I don't know that we're expecting much else in terms of public artifacts for that particular board, excuse me, that particular board meeting. However, the same way that I'm preparing a financial overview of the last of 2023 and a programmatic overview for 2023 for the board meeting, that also goes into the annual report. So those will also be public artifacts that folks will see.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Neil. And thank you everybody for playing along. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.